Hello, what's going on, beautiful people? It's your boy Smurto. If you're anything like me, you have been grinding away at the new Arena Royale mode in Splitgate, Arena Reloaded. And today I wanted to just get together, compile a couple tips and things I've learned along the way across this opening weekend. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. So the most important thing to remember in Arena Royale is that cash is king. You want to be getting as much cash as quickly as you can throughout the match, and you can do this in 3 different ways. 1, by looting the bins that spawn throughout the map. 2, by killing players throughout the match. And 3, by looting the supply caches and different objectives that spawn throughout the game. So now let's talk about inventory management and kind of how you spend your cash. The most important thing is to upgrade your shield as quickly as possible. It's going to give you bonus health and bonus regeneration, which is going to help with your fights, your survivability. All around, it's the best thing that you want to upgrade. Which we want to upgrade first. Now after that, I usually upgrade my weapons. I like getting better attachments and just being more lethal in the arena. But you can also upgrade your portal gun if you like portaling a lot. Personally, my playstyle isn't as portal heavy in this mode, so I usually don't upgrade my portal gun second. I usually upgrade my portal gun third. And then lastly, I typically upgrade my my equipment last, just because you're not really using it a whole ton in this mode. I will say that some equipment is better than others. For example, having a portal, a portaport, for example, is one of the best pieces of equipment you can run, just because it really opens up the different escapes and things that you can use. And also being able to use the sticky grenades and the shock discs can be really helpful. So I think it's playstyle dependent, but ultimately, always upgrade your shields first. Okay, so next I wanted to talk quickly about loadout, because while loadout isn't insanely important in this mode, it is important because it affects 1, what you start with when you drop in, and 2, what you start with when you respawn. So you want to have a good baseline for when you die or when you drop in. So this is what I run personally. I use the Pulse. I think the Pulse is probably the best long-range weapon in the game right now for Arena Royale. All the Pulses are extremely strong. Quantum is good. Jackhammer is good. This is just my personal preference. I like this one out of the 3. I don't think carbines are as strong in this mode, but they're still good for long range. I just like the Pulse for those times when like I have to like kill somebody up close. The Pulse will do the trick. So from there, I run Portaport. I think it's the best equipment for Arena Royale, but you can make arguments for other ones. It's just the most dependable escape tool, and with the limited access to portals in this mode, I think it's a good pickup for just about any player. As far as perks go, I mean, you guys know me. I always run Slide. That's my go-to in every single mode, regular arenas, and in this mode. But I think that Slide is also extra important because of the fact that you have less access to typical movement methods, like, you know, like portaling and other stuff. So it's the best way to move around the map. And then in terms of my other 2 perks, these are kind of interchangeable. I use the jetpacking one just for better jetpacking, just because that's how I move around a lot. It's just using the jetpacking, getting high ground, so I like getting that recharge. And then the other one is just really up to personal preference. I run, I think, killer cooldown for this, but it's totally up to you. You can kind of play around with these, but those are the ones that I suggest. Okay, so let's talk about the early game strats and what you should be doing when you drop in. So like we mentioned earlier, cash is really important, especially in the early game. If you can loot those banes and get a bunch of cash early, that's going to be huge for your momentum. And if you're lucky, you can actually get 1 or 2 shields, so you can get on green and blue like really quickly, which is going to be very oppressive for the enemy teams that you're fighting in the early game. Secondly, you want to be paying attention to that radar when you drop. Typically, you're not going to get contested when you drop, but occasionally you will, and it's important to just be paying attention to your radar so you can see where enemies are. Whenever someone shoots, it can be like 200, 300 meters away, and you can still see it on your radar, so that's going to be helpful for when you try to rotate and get some more kills. That's what I do in my high kill games, is I'm always paying attention to that radar and seeing where I can rotate to with my team just to get as many fights as I possibly can. And in terms of loadout, what I typically run is I run one long range weapon and then one weapon that's good up close. Now granted, this is playstyle dependent, but I think there are better weapons than others. I really recommend all the pulses. The quantum, the jackhammer, and the pulse are all really good at mid to long range and can even be used up close, which just makes them the jack of all trades kind of weapon, and they're very consistent. You can use like an AR or a carbine for long ranges. If you are, I do recommend using the Warden carbine. It does a lot of damage and can really put so much pressure on the enemies. And then for ARs, I recommend using the Trailblazer or the Tempo. The Synapse is okay, it's just not as effective as those two guns. I personally love the Trailblazer, so that's always my go-to AR. Sometimes I use a pulse in an AR, sometimes it's a pulse, or it's an AR and an SMG. It just kind of depends on how the game's going. But in terms of like super close range, I love the Rattler in this game mode. I think it's the best SMG by far. It's kind of funny because in regular arenas, the Rattler isn't that great, but in this mode it really shines, and it outshines the Sprinter quite a lot. And then for shotguns, the Blitz is absolutely insane. I would argue that it's the best gun in this mode. It kills people so quickly, and you can even get some good 1v2s in the early game with it. It just does so much damage, and I highly recommend it. Okay, so with that being said, now let's transition into talking about your mentality you should have when you're in your fights and kind of how everything plays out in this Battle Royale mode, if that's what you want to call it. So I think the biggest piece of advice that I have, and it's kind of cliche, but it's really important in this game mode, is stick with your team, stack with your team. If you're solo queue, this is a little bit more difficult, so I definitely recommend trying to play it with at least one or two friends or players that you know. But regardless, this mode it's not like the regular arenas, you can't portal around like crazy and kind of be on your own and just frag out. Like your portal is on a cooldown, especially in the early game. You only have like 4 portals. And if you're not running that port-to-port, your movement is very limited. So playing with your team and getting angles is so important. And like I said before, using that radar as well. Like if you see one of your teammates like on a mountain somewhere on the right side and he's shooting a team, maybe like flank around the mountain, go to the left, but you're still like playing with your team at the same time, right? So that's my biggest piece of advice. So with that being said, this is going to completely contradict what I just said, but it'll make sense a little bit, right? So when you're in fights, especially fights that are close, especially in the mid to late game where everyone is, they have a lot of cash and they have high shields and a lot of plates, make sure that you're in a position, either you're by yourself, 1, or 2, that you have somebody just in a position that they can escape. Because if you're in a team fight and you guys are all stacked together and you lose that fight, it's game over, GG's, like your team gets wiped. So having at least one person in a position where they can retreat, back up, plate up, and allow your team to respawn is just gonna overall make sure that you win more games, get more kills, and that's gonna be huge for your gameplay. If you are solo queuing, I recommend just being a little bit more passive, not being as hyper aggressive and trying to confirm those kills, maybe playing at longer ranges. because 9 times out of 10, you are going to have to be that person that can retreat and get to a safe position. So next, I want to talk about overall like uptime and like how you should kind of play fights out. I think in this mode, you want to be doing, you just want to have as high uptime as possible. So how do you do that, right? So one thing that is important is just managing your overall health in this game. It's really easy to just kind of, especially when you're in 1v1s, to just kind of, you know, like just ego chow this guy and try to just 1v1 him straight up. But it's, and you can kind of see this when I play, like if I'm not shooting, if I'm not reloading, if I'm not portaling, if I'm not moving, you know, I'm constantly plating, right? You know, maybe I dump like half a clip into this guy, I dip out, I retreat, you know, even if it's like going outside of a window, getting a new angle and plating in between. This game is very similar to Call of Duty Warzone in the fact that you can move around a lot and constantly heal up. You may see it in this gameplay here where I'm basically like bunny hopping around the map and plating. Like managing your health and keeping high health is super important. And another thing to mention too is that like if you're taking a bunch of damage off your regular health, you got to throw a plate on there. Even one plate in the middle of a fight is gonna, like, it's gonna drastically improve your survivability and chances of winning that 1v1 or even that 1v2. So just keep an eye on your health. If you're running low on plates, you can always loot them in the bins. They do respawn when the zone closes, which is super nice. So in the end game, if you're low on plates and your team just needs to, you know, resupply, you can go back to those old zones, those old points of interest that you looted already. Get in those bins, get some plates, and if you need some sort of plates or ammo, just confirm the kills that you're getting. You'll get 3 plates typically when you down an enemy, depending on how many they had. If they had less than 3, you won't get 3, but typically you'll get 3 plates when you down an enemy. So just keep an eye on that. That's super important. Okay, so let's finish up with just talking about Endgame and the mentality you should have when you enter these final fights in Arena Royale. So typically Endgames are going to have 2 to 3 teams, occasionally 4. If there is 3 to 4 teams in the endgame, you just want to play a little bit more slow, just because it's really easy to get 3rd or 4th partied and get wiped, so you just want to be careful. But when you're in a team fight in the endgame, and this isn't just the endgame, this is throughout the game, but when you wipe somebody on an enemy team, the radar is going to show a quick ping of where the team is, where their teammates are relative to where you are. So granted, keep in mind it's not going to show that location permanently as long as they're not shooting their gun. But with that information alone, when you get a kill, that's going to help you a lot in trying to find where people are on the map. So just be aware of that. Excuse me. Another thing to mention as well is that in the end game, the respawn timers are a lot more. Typically, especially in like the 1st or 2nd ring, those respawn timers are like 5-10 seconds a piece, but in the end game, they can be as much as 30 seconds long. So if you get any advantage, if you get a knock especially, call this out to your team and try to get them to push, because the enemy team is going to, you know, be on at least a 15-20 second respawn delay, and that's going to be huge for winning that team fight. So with that being said, those are all my tips for the new mode Arena Royale and Splitgate. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you found it useful or helpful, please leave a comment, drop a like, share it with your friends. I hope you enjoyed watching. It was an absolute pleasure. My name is Smurto, and I will be seeing you guys in the arena.